I used to believe marriage was built on trust, the kind that doesn't need constant reassurance. Because you just know, for 12 years, I thought I just knew my husband, Daniel. We met in college, built a life together, shared everything from cheap rented apartments to our first home, from ramen dinners to vacations in Italy. He was the kind of man who remembered my coffee order, who'd text me made it safe after a late shift, who kissed me on the forehead every single morning. Or so I thought. The first crack came quietly, not the way betrayals often erupt. It was a Tuesday, 8:17 p.m. I remember because I was folding laundry and heard his phone buzz on the kitchen counter. The name on the screen wasn't one I recognized. Emily. The message preview read, "Can't stop thinking about last night. Same time Friday?" I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe a work colleague joking. Maybe an old friend. But when I called out to him from the kitchen, "Who's Emily?" the way his eyes froze before his mouth moved told me more than his words ever could. "She's someone from work." Nothing. Nothing. It became my everything. That night, I couldn't sleep. His phone was on his nightstand, and for the first time in our marriage, I went through it. The texts were a thread, not just from Emily, but from two other women, different cities, different dates, different names saved as work client or gym buddy. But the deeper I dug, the worse it got. Hidden email accounts, hotel bookings during business trips, photos, intimate, careless, in places he'd told me he was alone, receipts for dinners I'd never been to, gifts I'd never received. I wasn't married to a man. I was married to an actor playing my husband in the daylight, while moonlighting as someone else entirely when the lights went out. When I confronted him, he didn't cry, didn't beg, didn't even deny it. He just looked at me with this cold resignation, as if I'd finally caught up to a truth he'd been waiting years for me to discover. "It's complicated," he said. "I never wanted to hurt you. The audacity. For 3 months, I played my part. I didn't leave right away. I wanted to understand the how, the why, the who else. I gathered everything, bank statements, copies of texts, voice messages, emails. I spoke to 2 of the women. They thought they were the only one. By the time I left, I knew more about his life than he probably did. The divorce was clean on paper, but brutal in reality. He tried to spin it to friends and family as we just grew apart. I didn't let that lie stand. At our final settlement meeting, I slid a neatly organized folder across the table. Inside, every receipt, every text, every photo. His parents were there. His sister. His lawyer. The silence was deafening. I walked out without looking back. My entire marriage reduced to a stack of printed lies. It's been 2 years. Sometimes people ask if I'd ever forgive him. The answer is no. Not because of the cheating, but because for 12 years, he let me build a life on a foundation he knew was made of sand. He let me believe I knew him. The truth wasn't that he had another woman. The truth was that he had another life. And I was never in it the way I thought I was. I thought leaving would bring peace. Instead, the first months felt like detoxing from a drug I didn't even know I was addicted to. The drug of certainty. For over a decade, I'd woken up every day believing I knew the man beside me. Now I woke up wondering if anything in my life was real. I stopped wearing my wedding ring the day after the settlement. My finger felt naked, and for weeks I'd find myself twisting at the empty space, as if muscle memory hadn't caught up with reality. The real unraveling happened when I learned the depth of his deception wasn't limited to romance. Daniel had been lying about money too. The business trips weren't just for women. Some were to hide gambling losses. He borrowed against our home equity, without telling me, using my signature forged on documents I never saw. It was almost laughable, except it wasn't. Friends asked how I didn't see it sooner. That's the thing about a double life. It's only obvious in hindsight. Every late meeting, every business call that couldn't wait, every trip where he came home tired but smiling, it all clicked after. One of the women, Emily, reached out to me again, not to apologize, but to ask if I'd known he told her he was divorced. She sent me screenshots of their conversations. He'd painted me as some bitter ex who wouldn't let go, even while we were still married. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt hollow. One night, months later, I saw him at a restaurant. Not with Emily, not with any of the women I knew. A new one, younger, laughing like I'd never existed. That was the moment the anger finally drained out of me, because I realized he wasn't going to change. His double life wasn't an accident or a phase. It was his identity, and I had escaped it. That night, I went home and opened a box I'd been avoiding. Inside were the wedding photos, anniversary cards, little notes he'd written on Post-its over the years. I lit a fire in the small metal pit in my backyard and fed them in, one by one. The flames licked at his handwriting, his smile, our memories, until they curled into black ash. It didn't erase the past, but it gave me back my present. Today, my life is quieter. Smaller, maybe, but it's mine, and every corner of it is real. I don't have to wonder if the man across the table is lying, because the only person across the table now is me, and I can live with that truth. 6 months after the divorce, I still caught myself glancing over my shoulder in public, half expecting to see Daniel's face in the crowd. I wasn't afraid of him. I was afraid of what seeing him might do to me, how it might pull me back into old patterns of questioning myself, because that's what a double life does. It doesn't just destroy trust in them. It makes you suspicious of your own judgment. I'd start second-guessing strangers, too. The Uber driver who said he was married with 2 kids. The co-worker who claimed to be too busy to date. The friend of a friend who bragged about his weekend golf trips. It wasn't paranoia. It was muscle memory. The kind you develop when the person you loved most was also the person who lied best. I didn't date for a year. Not because I didn't have the chance. I did. But I needed to rebuild my own instincts before I could trust anyone else's intentions. In that time, I learned things about myself I hadn't seen in years. I traveled alone. I ate at restaurants solo, book in hand, without feeling like I had to explain my presence to anyone. I joined a hiking group, and for once, I didn't feel the need to text someone when I got home to prove I was safe. I was safe because I decided I was. Then came the day I got the letter. It was from Daniel. 3 pages, handwritten like he thought that would give it more weight. He said he'd been doing a lot of thinking and realized the mistakes he made. He claimed therapy had helped him see the value of honesty. He ended it with, "I'd like the chance to talk, not to get back together, just to give you the truth I should have years ago." For a split second, I considered it. I wanted to know the truth, the full map of his double life. But then I realized something. His truth was still under his control. He would tell me only what he wanted, how he wanted. And in doing so, he'd put himself back in a position of power. So I didn't reply. 2 weeks later, I heard from a mutual friend that he was engaged. The new fiancée was a woman I'd seen in the restaurant. She had no idea. I thought about warning her. I didn't. She wouldn't believe me, not yet. She'd believe him, the way I once did, until his other life came knocking. Now, when I think about Daniel, I don't feel rage anymore. I feel a strange sort of pity, because living 2 lives might seem exciting, but it's exhausting. And one day, one of them will collapse, probably both. As for me, I sleep better than I have in years. My life is smaller, yes, but it's solid, because the truth I finally learned isn't about him. It's about me. I can survive knowing the man I loved never really existed. I can survive the double life, because I'm finally living my own single, honest one. Last month, I found myself back in the same cafe where Daniel and I had our first date. I hadn't planned it. I was just walking, and the smell of roasted coffee drifted out the open door, pulling me in. I sat at a corner table, sipping my latte, watching strangers talk and laugh. Couples leaned close over pastries. Friends gestured wildly with their hands. No one here knew me, and I liked that. Then, in the window's reflection, I saw a man standing outside. For a second, my breath caught, tall, dark jacket, hair just like his. But when he turned, it wasn't Daniel, just a stranger. I smiled to myself. The old me would have felt a pang, a reminder of the man I thought I loved. The woman sitting here now felt something else entirely. Freedom. Because the greatest revenge isn't confrontation. It isn't proving him wrong. It isn't even exposing him. It's living so fully, so truthfully, that his lies have no room left in your world. I finished my coffee, left a tip, and stepped out into the crisp air. The past was behind me, not as a shadow, but as a closed door. And I didn't just walk away from it. I ran toward everything ahead.